All right. Today it's Thursday. We're going to do Throwback Thursday as Poetry Thursday. I'm continuing the fun poetry tradition from the last few weeks. I hope that you are doing awesome, that things are going well for you. I greatly appreciate that you keep coming back to the channel and watching the videos. I love all the likes and the comments, the interaction of the community. So as always, thank you very much. It's the continued support and positivity about Poetry Thursday that makes me continue doing this. Though I have to warn you, today I have a very scary poem. It is called Jabberwocky, and it's by Lewis Carroll. A lot of people may not realize this because maybe they never read the sequel to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was published in 1865. That's a long time ago. Then in 1871, the sequel was called Through the Looking Glass. And in that sequel was what was supposed to be a nonsense poem. Quite frankly, when I read Jabberwocky, it doesn't come across as nonsense to me, though I completely understand people who call it nonsense. Lewis Carroll apparently originally wanted the poem printed in a reverse mirror kind of fashion, but he was told that it would be too expensive at the time, the way that they published books and put it all together, to change that out and do the mirror typeset. But think about how different that would have been if the poem didn't even look like the letters were in a normal sort of fashion on the page. Interesting way for an author to attempt to manipulate the text and what we might call experimental writing by having something different put in there. In the story, Alice struggles to figure out the meaning of the poem, and even today a lot of people struggle with these supposed nonsense words, neologism. That's a tough one to pronounce, neologisms, as they tend to call them, because the words are not words that are normally defined in a dictionary. They are invented words. But to me, they're not nonsense. They are invented words, but I believe that if you use context clues, it's really easy to figure out what's going on. The story in the poem is that there's some sort of monster out there in the forest. There's an old man who tells a younger man to go and kill that monster, to defeat it. The young man takes his sword, he goes out there, he fights the monster. Spoilers, you're about to get this poem and the story of it. The boy kills the monster, he returns in victory with the monster's head. The old man is really excited in celebration, and then you're just presented with that imagery of the forest once again. So to me, the poem makes perfect sense. Another note that I have for you is you might be thinking, why in the world is Jeremy Fee reading this poem? There are already great readings of this poem out there, and I will agree with you. You can listen to really famous people and people who actually have British accents read this poem. But I thought it might be nice to have an American Southern person read the poem for you. A different accent, perhaps a different take on the performance. But also, I listened to Benedict Cumberbatch read this poem, and he did it incorrectly. In fact, a lot of people who read this poem do it incorrectly, because there's a word in this poem, one of the nonsense words, one of the neologisms, which is Borogove. And that last part of it, gove, it looks and sounds a lot like the word grove. And you're talking about a forest and thinking of groves out in the forest, there's a mental connection. Benedict Cumberbatch, like a lot of other people, when reading this poem and performing it, put an R in there and they say Borogrove. I was so disappointed that such a master as Benedict Cumberbatch would get that wrong. So I'm going to give you the actual words in the poem. I'm not going to stick an R in there. Though I admit it's hard to not accidentally put in that extra letter sound. And it's in both the beginning and the end of the poem. Alright, here we go. I hope you enjoy my reading. It's Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome-raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. Hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Callooh, Calais! He chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe. That's the entire poem. Isn't it a lot of fun? It's just a quick little adventure story of a young man defeating a monster. Fun little trivia fact, the idea of a vorpal sword is used in the game Dungeons and Dragons. They take what was a nonsense word in this poem, and it's actually a magic item the players can get when they play the game. And in the game, if your character gets a vorpal sword, it's a sword that has a special chance of decapitating monsters when you use it against them. Alright, that's it for today's book talk. Poetry Thursday's coming to an end, but every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.